Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Connection, coming to you from Spirit and Truth Sanctuary. It has happened. It is upon us. First sweater of the season, long sleeves. Sweater weather is here, like it or not. So I hope that brings you some joy today. Let's begin with our morning blessing. Spirit of Truth, we give thanks today for our connection in this time of togetherness, for our sameness as well as our contrast, and for the light we reflect to one another and see in one another. We give thanks for the holy that holds us and for the humanity that always brings us back to the holy. We ask that our happiness, our peace, and our joy now be woven into the fabric of the world around us, and that it serve as nourishment to feed the heart of the collective. In the name and nature of the Christ, amen, and so it is. Okay, quotes. If I can get my paper straight, there we go. I have only two quotes for you today. The first one is by Carl Jung, and it is, "The most terrifying thing one can do is accept oneself completely." The second one is from a woman named Karen Marie Moning, and she says, "I lock eyes with my reflection and I don't look away. The day you look away, you start to lose yourself. I never want to lose myself. You are what you are. Deal with it or change." Now, that last part of the quote might have sounded a little harsh to some of our ears, but there's an important truth there, and if you can get past your ego, you'll be able to see that that's actually a very empowering quote. It's about looking at yourself, seeing all of what's there, not just the pretty parts or the parts you've been taught are acceptable, and finding a way to either be good with or at least at peace with what you are, or make the decision to change whatever it is that you don't like. And each of us has the ability to do that. We are powerful creators. Many people who view what has come to be known as radical, which is just another word for complete self-acceptance, many people view that as a cop-out because they say or they think that it means accepting all of your negative characteristics and behaviors without trying to change them. They think the statement, "just be who you are," means only who you are at your worst. But that's not what I think it means at all. I love the way Esther Hicks talks about it. Fully accepting what is, while at the same time always being eager, open, and excited, and reaching for more and or better. Self-acceptance is all about seeing very clearly, like our quote said, locking eyes with your reflection and not turning away, seeing the attributes you judge as good or positive and those you judge as negative, unappealing, or even destructive, and still being able to love who you are at your core. I'm not sure where I got these 4 steps that I'm about to give you. They were just in some old notes of mine. But here's a good way to look at the process of how we go about changing or adjusting those things about us that we are not comfortable with. First, you must see them, recognize them, take a hard look at yourself in the mirror, going back to the quote. Second, accept that they're there. Okay, that's a step that some people actually skip. Don't live in denial that you have a few or maybe more than a few issues. We all do. So accept what is as it is. Then third, if you can figure out the reason why those things are there or know where they came from, then forgive the person or situation that was the cause, and most importantly, forgive yourself. And lastly, fourth, love yourself in spite of them. When you are able to do those 4 things, whatever changes that need to occur will pretty much just happen of their own accord. Okay, moving on. We come here to this physical human existence from the spirit realm for a reason. And the experiences we have here, both positive and negative, help us learn the lessons we need to learn for our spiritual evolution. I want to give you a little visual here. On Sunday, the responsive reading was about learning to wear both criticism and flattery from others lightly. Here's part of it. I said, we should learn to wear both flattery and criticism like a loose garment, touching but not tethering us, close but not clinging. I will allow people's flattery to touch me but not cling to me. I will feel their criticism but not allow it to restrict my movement. So that's a great visual. Let me add a little to it now. Just a second ago, I said that we come here to this physical human existence from the spirit realm. So from a place that's perfect and timeless and limitless and formless into this earthly realm where we have bodies that need food to eat and air to breathe, where we are subject to things like gravity and other physical laws, etc. So I like to picture in my mind that the earth is surrounded by this film-like substance, like there's a ring around it made from something like silly putty or clay or something stretchy that molds around things, maybe like that slime that kids play with now. When we're in spirit, we have no form. But when we come down to earth, I visualize it as our spirit coming through that film, okay, just like you would put your fist through, a thing of clay or slime or whatever, and then it molds around it or covers it, as it were, our spirit, and gives us a form so we can move around and navigate here on earth. So that's layer number one. The body is not who we are. It's just a lump of clay that has molded around our spirit to give us a visible form as we moved through it when we were coming from the spirit realm into the earth realm. And once we're here in a physical form, just like we put clothes on our physical body, that's how I see our characteristics. More specifically today, we'll talk about our emotions being like these garments we were reading about a moment ago that we wear, but we wear them loosely. They're a part of who we are, but not permanently. They are not our essence. We can choose to wear them for a while, and they serve a purpose just like clothes serve a purpose. They keep us warm, they keep our skin protected, they keep things covered up that need to be covered up, but at the end of the day, they are not a permanent part of us. When we take a look at ourselves in the mirror to see all of who we are, we tend to view the negative aspects as things to be gotten rid of or to purge from ourselves. But what do we say all the time? Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed or changed into a different form. And that's all our emotions are. They're energy. So trying to destroy them or get rid of them, of the ones you don't like, are a waste of time. Sometimes we think being at peace means never experiencing strong or uncomfortable emotions, but that is not true. And those characteristics that we view as negative that usually arise from strong emotions are not something to be purged or gotten rid of, but to be faced head on. Okay, let's remember our 4-step process for doing that. We see them, we accept that they're there, we forgive everything and everyone who had a hand in creating them, including ourselves, and we love ourselves completely in spite of them. And that's how they begin to transform into an energy that is more positive. All right, so let's go back now to our visualization. I want to talk about a concept called finding the seed inside the husk. Let's remember our layers. When we look into that mirror, that's what we're seeing, a whole bunch of layers over our true essence, which is pure spirit. Everything else is just the clay that we came through to give us form, or the garments that we have the ability to put on or take off whenever we want to. Our spirit is like the seed, okay? The little seed down inside, and all the layers on top are what we call the husk, just like an ear of corn. And that's a pattern that actually repeats over and over all through the universe. Everything has a core essence, but it's down beneath some layers, or it's inside an outer husk. And sometimes you have to look deeper into something. Specifically what we're talking about today, what seem like negative emotions or characteristics or even behaviors in order to find the good that is down at the core, because everything has good at its core. There's a scripture, I think it's somewhere in Psalms. I tried to look it up even though I know I've read it before, but I couldn't find it on any of those apps, Bible apps. But it is about finding the sacred in the profane. Years ago, my brother wrote a book called Finding Sacred in the Secular, which is a similar concept. It's all based on the basic belief that God created everything and that everything is working for our good. Like I said, there's a little seed of good down inside everything, even the things we temporarily view as bad. Our emotions and our emotional responses are just signals, as we've talked about before, that can be very useful to us. I'm going to read now from some notes I took on this subject some years back. It's kind of a longer passage, but just bear with me, if you will, because this is the crux of the whole teaching today. How to take emotions that we feel are negative, and instead of treating them only as aspects of ourselves we need to purge or get rid of, we need to dig deeper and to discern what is that emotion or that emotional response trying to tell us. It can be trying to give us strength to get through our fear of doing something, or to have or to confront something that really needs to be confronted, or it can be trying to protect us in the moment from something that is too traumatic for us to handle all at once, giving us the option to process it piece by piece in our own time. Or it can be signaling us that something about ourselves, there is something about ourselves that we need to take a look at and deal with. So regardless, we waste energy by simply trying not to feel it, or suppressing it, or projecting it, because in all of those actions, we lose the value of whatever the lesson is it's trying to teach us. We need to begin looking at these emotions as allies, things that are here to help us grow and to learn more about ourselves. Okay, so here's the passage. It comes from an online course I took some years back in conjunction with the website The Daily Om. I don't know if some of you might be familiar with it. I believe the author of this particular course, I believe her name is Jumana Sophia, and she says this: something miraculous and seriously empowering happens when you notice what your default tendencies are and then stop identifying with them as disempowering stories. Okay, so we're getting a little Eckhart Tolle vibe right here at the very beginning. Don't identify permanently with things that are only meant to be worn temporarily, like garments. Take anxiety, for example. You may notice that you live with an undertone or maybe even an overtone of anxiety, worrying about things, tension in your body, the inability to relax or to trust anybody, fear of change or lack or loss. All these aspects of anxiety can become the defining architecture of your life if you let them. You may approach a solution or resolution to this in many ways: meditation, medication, self-judgment, controlling behavior towards others or situations are just a few common ones. But all of these are efforts to change it, to make it go away, to garner some control over what feels uncomfortable to you. And no doubt you have legitimate life experiences to justify or explain your anxiety. Growing up with trauma or loss, the crazy state of the world, unexpected shock of some kind, or even your own biochemistry. Now, let's take a frame shift, or in other words, let's change our perspective on it. If you were to release any judgment of that tendency or characteristic and release the story that seems to explain it, you would have the opportunity to connect with yourself in the present moment, again, Eckhart Tolle, from a place of resource and radical trust in your own wisdom as you are. Instead of identifying your tendencies as problems, you have the option of choosing to identifying them as allies, friends, or helpers. Specifically, allies that let you know you need to listen a little more deeply from within. Allies that let you know this is a time not for action or reaction towards others or a circumstance, but a time for sacred self-care, self-inquiry, and a return to your center. There is a signal or a voice from your inner world speaking to you through what you consider imbalances or problems. If you listen truly and deeply, you will usually find something unexpected, an intimacy and self-knowledge that you didn't realize you could have. For example, as I've approached my own anxiety as an ally rather than a problem to be solved, I've learned that I simply need much more quiet time than I was giving myself. More time alone with my own essence in order to settle all that my system experiences in the rush of life. When I feel anxiety welling up or building in me, instead of spiraling out in a long list of what I could be worrying about or analyzing why I'm feeling how I feel, I simply recognize the feeling of anxiety as an ally, a signal to me that it's time to take a moment and come back to my center. Okay, time out. Back to our visualization. Take the jacket of anxiety off, hang it up so you can see what's underneath. Keep looking long enough and you'll eventually get down to your true essence, your spirit man, your I am, which is never anxious. Okay, back to the notes. Over time, by listening in this way, I have come to discover a level of authentic self-care that brings me so much more peace and well-being than I would find by either taking action from a state of anxiety or analyzing/processing the story that might be behind it. Okay, time out again. When you wear your emotions loosely, like a garment that can be taken on and off, then you lose the need to take action or to even understand where it's coming from, because once you remember who you are at your core, your essence, so many of these emotional disturbances just don't seem to matter all that much anymore. Okay, now she continues, this isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do all the time. It is akin to a Jedi skill, requiring mastery over a period of time and consistent recalibration, learning as you go. Being centered is not a place you reach and then stay. It is a dynamic equilibrium moving in and out and around direct center. The first step of disentangling inner cues or signals from the need to take action or analyze or attempt to fix something outside of you, something that's just a garment, is an empowering one. As you continue to work with your emotions in the present moment, you will gain greater wisdom and personal strength. Your emotional and energetic state exists in the present moment always, regardless of residual impact from past events. When you cease giving energy to what you can remember from the past or what you think should be fixed or controlled or understood with your mind, you will harvest an enormous amount of personal power. When you learn to touch and move with your emotions with clarity, or what our responsive reading said, let them touch you but not cling to you, you will be able to effect a true and lasting shift in your being and to make choices that guide your life towards greater harmony and fulfillment. You can think of your emotions as seeds, here it is, wrapped in a husk. Somewhere inside the emotional experience you are having is a pure seed of consciousness, your essence, true wisdom, and authentic energy. The husk is made up of all your assumptions and all the habits that don't serve you, all of your projections and misunderstandings, all the ways in which you abandon yourself. In order to make choices that align with your soul, to find an empowered peace of mind, and to lay all the patterns of emotional abuse and manipulation to rest, you need to cultivate true discernment in your emotional body and activate a redemption of pure energy potential within you. Okay, that was a big mouthful. This next little thing she says, though, makes it a little bit clearer. You need to shed the husk, or, as we said, take off the jacket and bring forward the seed that will always show you the way to sacred liberation. Now, here's an example she gives of taking an emotion. The one she uses is anger, and going through this process, looking past the husk to see the seed of good that's inside, what this emotion of anger is trying to point you to. She begins with just the word, anger. Then she tells you a bunch of things that it's not. Anger is not aggression. Anger is not domination. Anger is not scalding criticism. Anger is not dehumanization or abuse of those weaker than us. Anger is not rapacious destruction, okay? All these behaviors that people exhibit when they are, all these that I've just mentioned are behaviors that people exhibit when they are unable to access and move with their anger in an appropriate way. Anger gets twisted when we do not know how to treat our emotions as friendly signals, when we don't learn to surrender those things we cannot control. These behaviors are merely the husk that surrounds the seed of what the emotion of anger really is. Anger in its pure form is a huge energy, a wild stallion to ride. But if you express it outwardly, what have you gained? Nothing. No positive impact on the person you are angry with. No real wisdom gained for you. If anything, you lose energy to the perception of being victimized or neglected in that moment. There is no way to change the choices other people make or the specific impact their choices have on your reality. In a way, if you act outwardly, listen to this, your anger becomes your problem and is no longer about their choice. Okay, so if you act on your anger without stopping and getting centered first, and it's not necessarily that you never have to act, sometimes you do, but if you do it before you find your center and act out of an appropriate place, then it's your problem. And like she said, it's not really doing anything positive for anybody else, most assuredly not for you. But if you are able to shed the husk and harness the pure power of your anger, which is actually a very wise and powerful force with a very clear, decisive voice, you will gain energy and power from this circumstance. When you learn how to shed the husk and reveal the seed of the energy you're feeling, it will serve to purify you. Okay, so let's break all that down a little further. Bishop Carlton Pearson has a very unique definition of sin. He says sin is an inappropriate response to a legitimate need. That's so deep and it's so true. When we sin, or what the traditional concept of sin is, we only do so out of a need for something. What his definition is saying is that the action we take in response to that need is that's what's sometimes wrong or inappropriate, but the need itself is legitimate. Let's go back to that passage and the example it gave, anger. When we feel anger, that's not wrong in and of itself. The Bible even says, be angry and sin not. It's not the anger that's wrong or negative. It's what we do about it or as a result of it that usually gets us into trouble and hurts people around us and as well as ourselves. If we can learn to feel the anger and then stop, and instead of reacting to it immediately, ask ourselves the question, what is this anger trying to signal to me? What is it triggering inside of me that I need to deal with in an appropriate as opposed to an inappropriate way? Many times we feel anger when we feel that someone we love has been mistreated. And that anger is a trigger for protection. It is telling us that either we, ourselves, or whoever that loved one is in need of some sort of protection. But we need to make sure we handle it appropriately and not let it get twisted into something destructive, as the examples she used said. We may need to make sure it doesn't turn into aggression or domination or scalding criticism or dehumanization or abuse of those weaker than us or rapacious destruction. Rapacious, that is a good word for the day. It means aggressively greedy or grasping. Or another definition of it is destruction that is useless, destruction for destruction's sake. For instance, if there's a roach in your house, instead of stepping on it with your shoe, you decide you need to go get your shotgun. Okay, so using more force than is necessary in a situation is rapacious. Shooting a dog or another animal because it is rabid in order to both put it out of its misery and to protect other animals and children that might be outside is a very different thing from shooting that dog because it pooped on your lawn. We've got to learn to apply only the force that is necessary to deal with a situation and not let the emotion of anger cause us to go overboard in our response. Yes, let your anger signal you that some protection is needed, but don't let it spiral out of control into revenge or violence for violence sake. And this, of course, can be applied emotionally as well as physically. In fact, most of the situations involving anger that we deal with these days are emotional and not physical violence. But sometimes they turn into physical violence again if we don't stop. But using your words against someone about someone in a fit of uncontrolled anger, though, I want to just add as a side note, can be every bit as devastating and destructive to them personally, inwardly, as physically assaulting them. All right, so to conclude, I'll read just a bit more from this passage. And I know I'm reading a lot today, but it's so good. She says, strong emotions such as anger and jealousy are voices to be listened to. If you soften around the immediate and outer impulse to control the situation or respond in too harsh a manner, you can drop deeper into the message or signal the emotion is sending you and find the sacred need that is there. From that place of realizing and admitting your need, you can decide how to appropriately respond in a way that gives you a much better chance of receiving the outcome you truly desire. Make the time and space to acknowledge when strong feelings arise, and then practice discernment to separate the seed from the husk. Commit to reclaiming and purifying the energies that move through you rather than letting them run you over and lead you towards undiscerning action. All right, so discernment, that's another good old-fashioned word we used to use a lot in Christian circles. Bishop Paulk used to always say that the mark of a mature church is discernment, and I agree that you can rightly divide, as we talk about a lot. And it's the same in each of our personal lives. We have to learn to take everything that happens to us and turn it into a tool we can use in order to grow. Even those things we look at in ourselves and view as negative, because properly understood and handled, they too are a gift from God to us. Okay, so here's the last little bit of the passage, and we'll end with this because I think it is a great summary of this whole teaching today. She says, we are on this earth in our physical bodies because our souls have things to learn that we could not learn in any other way. It is through our physical body and the physical world that we experience life. Purely spiritual beings are just that. They are in a state of being rather than doing, in a place that is beyond the limitations of time and space. But when we incarnate on the physical plane, we are automatically subject to the laws of physics and to the world of duality. In this place, we know what happiness is because we experience sadness, and we understand the value and power of light because we have known darkness. Knowing this, we have the opportunity to let ourselves be spiritual beings having a physical experience. There is no pain in the spiritual realm because there we know we are one with the limitless source of the universe. But here in the material realm, our sense of limitation and separation allows us to feel our emotions and to learn about love, forgiveness, and compassion. We go from a spiritual state of oneness to learning how to be in relationship with people who are different and distinct individuals. We learn to understand ourselves through our relationships with those in the world around us, its seasons and landscapes and opportunities. And throughout our journey to find our place among so many others, we begin to recognize our own glimmer of light in a constellation of stars. Once we remember that we are spiritual beings, we can revel in the experience of being human while also knowing we are all connected. We can live from a place of oneness while at the same time truly appreciating the beauty of diversity, the bittersweet feel of love and loss, and the elation of triumph over challenges and adversity. It is through these opposites that we are able to experience life itself, and we can ride through the dark times with the understanding that it will help us appreciate the light of life and love and spirit more fully. We are here now because we made the choice to experience an earth life. So now we can choose to enjoy the journey as completely as possible. So that's the end of that passage. So let's remember today, our emotions are not bad or wrong. We just need to see them for and use them as what they are, a temporary layer or garment over another layer, this physical and also temporary form that our spirit has taken on. When we take the time to get down to that layer, that's where we find peace. That's the layer of the I am, who is just the observer, who is just the witness of everything that's happening around us on our human journey. So the next time you find yourself in an uncomfortable emotional state, I want you to think of that old Southern phrase that people say when you come into their house in wintertime. They say, take your coat off and sit down a while. Okay, so the next time you find there's an emotion that's uncomfortable welling up, just think about that statement. Just take it off. It's just an emotion. It's just a garment. Take it off. Sit down a while until you come back to your center, your I am, where there is always peace. Amen? Amen, my brother. My brother's still in the summertime. I told them today was my very first sweater day, but he still has on shorts because he's weird.
You're weird. So if you grew up in my house and my father welcomed you in to come and sit a while, he would have said, come sit a spell. I don't know what a spell means. I don't know if it's spell binding but come sit a spell. Who knows? Dad was raised in South Georgia or South Carolina, all different places, but sit a spell, and then not in the morning, LaDonna, but of a morning. Now, son, of a morning, we're gonna have to get up really early. That's a little Donald Leroy Paulk vernacular. A little, yes, that's right. That's Don Bonix, Leroy Bonix right there. So, wow, what a great teaching! Isn't that kind of building line upon line from our responsive reading Sunday? I love how Eckhart Tolle teaches this. If you say, "I am angry," okay, or "I am feeling angry," you're not the feeling, you're the awareness of the feeling. And so in that way, there is a dimension of separation from the emotion. I am feeling insecure. I am jealous. I am scared. I am happy. All of these things, we are not any emotion. We are the awareness of the emotion. And so we're bigger than our emotions. We wear them like loose garments. As Jesus said, do what you must do quickly and let it pass to you and then through you. What a great teaching today. This Sunday is our 62nd church anniversary. Hopefully everybody will be here. They are forecasting a chance of rain. It will not rain on our parade. We have cake and everything that's going to be prepared for everybody, a little bit of fellowship time. If our party gets ruined outside, we will bring the party inside. We'll bring the food inside and the music and everything. So don't worry. Don't let not your heart be troubled. We will continue to forge through the rain, Hurricane Ian. And so looking forward to seeing everybody. Think about, if you will, bring in a gift of $62 above and beyond your normal giving. It helps us during the year to deal with some projects. It's a good time to sow good seed into 62 years of ministry. We will see you tomorrow night at 6:30. Eckhart Tolle's in Newark. Looking forward to seeing everybody then. Have a great remainder of your week. Go in peace. May God bless you.